465. The night sky is really beautiful. Translator. Chibi General Editor. Chibi General. Gui Wang and Loner Hongyu were very disappointed. Fairy Ching Suo and Fairy Fen. Meng let out a breath of turbid air. Their expressions were complex. The heavy stone in Fairy Huang Sha's heart fell, and her body completely relaxed, almost falling down to the ground. The hatred in her heart towards Fang Yuan and the land spirit deepened by several times. As long as I can escape, as long as I can make a comeback, I will cut your bodies into 1,000 pieces to relieve this hatred in my heart. Heh, little friend is indeed worthy of being a demon venerable's inheritor. The land spirit let out a forced laughter and took out connecting heaven goo. This connecting heaven goo turned into a round mirror when it was activated and flew to the top of the land spirit and stayed there. The scene of pitch darkness in the mirror suddenly changed, letting out a bright yellow light. The land spirit activated Divine Sense goo. Divine Sense was transmitted into the mirror in waves after waves, and exchanged with other waves of Divine Sense. At the same time, the surface of the mirror continuously changed and showed pictures of all kinds of materials. The land spirit seemed to have already made an agreement. He took out 2 immortal essence stones out of nowhere and threw into the connecting heaven goo. The surface of the mirror seemed to ripple. The immortal essence stones went into the mirror and materials were spurted out by the mirror one after another. This time I have bought 20 sets of materials. I don't believe the refinement won't succeed, the land spirit said fiercely. The goo refinement began again, and at the final stage, bright starlight converged to become a pair of oval stones. Success! The land spirit laughed heartily and handed these 2 oval blue gemstone-like goo worms to Fang Yuan. This is Stargate goo. I have finished the agreement. How do I know if it works or not? Fang Yuan held this pair of Stargate goo and asked. The land spirit fumed in anger, as if it had received a great insult. Are you doubting my goo refinement ability? You can exchange it if it won't do. All right, I shall take my leave then. Fang Yuan was extremely straightforward and expressed his intent to leave. The land spirit fiercely stared at his eyes. Leaving just like that? Then the remaining 2 chances, you won't use them now? I am saving them for now? Where is the exit? The land spirit waved his hand, teleporting the 5 immortals away. His expression then greatly eased. What recipes do you have now? Write them all out and let me look. None left. If I had any, I would have exchanged them with you. Fang Yuan shirked. I have a feeling, little friend, you have something good still left. The land spirit looked at Fang Yuan doubtfully and mumbled. All right then, I shall wait for your return. The land spirit then waved his sleeve. Fang Yuan's vision blurred, and when it cleared, he saw he was back at the stone forest. Beside him was the stone stool he sat at before, and behind was that purple stone pillar. The stars shone brightly at the sky. The temperature was low, and one could see their breath coming out. Everything before seemed like a dream, causing Fang Yuan to feel like it was all a lifelike illusion. He looked at the sky. He had spent quite some time in Lungya Blessed Land, but only 1/36 of that time had passed in the outside world. Stargate goo, Divine Sense goo, connecting heaven goo, and the 2 small vat of top-quality wine in wolf swallow goo were clear evidences that allowed Fang Yuan to recall this fortuitous encounter. I had intended to use all the 3 chances, but who knew I could use recipes to exchange for goo, thus I still have 2 chances left. If this Stargate goo can be used, it would make spending a goo refinement chance worth it. Fang Yuan thought of this as he left the place and returned to the wolf group. This was a time where he had to make use of every second to prevent causing any complications. Fang Yuan sat cross-legged at the grassy land under the protection of the Wolf Kings and began writing a letter. The letter was soon finished. He then activated Moving Perspective Cup Goo. After a moment, the Moving Perspective Cup exchanged with the other one through the space cave, and Fang Yuan took out a rank 4 goo and a letter from it. This goo was like a dried fish named Dried Pond Goo and was a water path goo worm with a special effect. It is used to boost the effects of other goo worms. Once this goo arrived in Northern Plains, it was immediately suppressed to rank 3. Fang Yuan browsed through the letter and nodded in satisfaction. During these days when I was not at the Blessed Land, it seems little Hu Immortal had been extremely diligent and did not forget the task I gave before I left, refining 20 dried pond goo. Great. Fang Yuan then sent another letter, including several praises towards little Hu Immortal. Master praised me. I am so happy. Little Hu Immortal's face flushed with happiness after she read the letter. Master, I miss you. Little Hu Immortal lied down on the table and started writing. When Master is not here, I feel anxious. Master, are you okay? I am sending another dried pond goo there. Little Hu Immortal used her delicate small hand to fold the letter properly before putting it into moving perspective cup goo. At the same time, she also added a dried pond goo. After a good while, moving perspective cup goo leisurely flew up and entered Space Cave, exchanging with the other moving perspective cup and appearing before Fang Yuan. Fang Yuan immediately took out the dried pond goo and glanced at the letter. Then he absorbed primeval stones to recover his primeval essence before activating moving perspective cup goo again. After repeating this over and over, he received a total of 8 dried pond goo. If I use the 8 dried pond goo together, their effects should stack up and match a rank 4 level. Fang Yuan crushed these dried pond goo on the spot. The dried pond goo turned into 8 halos, which twisted around moving perspective cup goo. At the same time, on Hu Immortal Blessed Land, little Hu Immortal also crushed 8 dried pond goo and overlaid them on moving perspective cup goo. Moving perspective. Cup goo was a rank 5 goo, but in Northern Plains it was suppressed to rank 4. Thus, it could only transport rank 4 goo worms. Now, after using 8 dried pond goo, moving perspective cup goo's ability advanced to rank 5 and could transport rank 5 goo. Fang Yuan waited for a while before taking out connecting heaven goo and gravely put it in moving perspective cup goo, then transferred his primeval essence. After successful activation, the 2 moving perspective cup completed their exchange in Space Cave, and the cup with connecting heaven goo appeared in Hu Immortal Blessed Land. Little Hu Immortal cheered and took out the connecting heaven goo. Tiny cracks appeared on moving perspective cup goo. Although dried pond goo could amplify a goo worm's ability, it was like draining the pond to get the fish or burning the forest to hunt. Although it greatly raised the power, the goo worm would perish because of the excessively forced power-up. Next, Fang Yuan sent Divine Sense goo to Hu Immortal Blessed Land, and the cracks on moving perspective cup goo intensified. Fang Yuan silently took out primeval stones and quickly replenished his primeval essence. He then sent 1 blue gemstone of the Stargate goo to Hu Immortal Blessed Land. Fortunately, Stargate goo was not an immortal goo, but a rank 5 goo, allowing Fang Yuan to be barely able to use moving perspective cup goo to send it to Hu Immortal Blessed Land. After the Stargate goo was sent to the Blessed Land, moving perspective cup goo had already become deformed with cracks all over it and was on the verge of collapse. At this point, it could still be used for one last time. Fang Yuan stored the moving perspective cup goo in his aperture and did not use it again. He was waiting now. Moving perspective cup goo had been refined by him and possessed his will. But he had already lent it to little Hu Immortal, thus she could also use it. The several times before were all him using moving perspective cup goo. It was because Hu Immortal Blessed Land's time flow was several times faster than at Northern Plains. If little Hu Immortal recklessly activated it from the Blessed Land, it was very possible Fang Yuan would not have been prepared. Puff, it is up to little Hu Immortal now. If she fails, she will have to send another moving perspective cup goo for the final use. Hopefully, she can succeed. Before Fang Yuan left, he had refined only 1 set of moving perspective cup goo, but he had reminded little Hu Immortal. For a period of time, little Hu Immortal and Immortal Crane Sect had made several transactions and exchanged many goo refinement materials, and had already refined the 2nd set of moving perspective cup goo. And time was becoming somewhat difficult to endure. Whether it was connecting heaven goo or divine sense goo, they were both rank 5 goo and had an extremely huge demand for primeval essence. Even a rank 5 peak stage goo master might only be able to last for several breaths. Thus, usually only goo immortals or land spirits would consume immortals' essence to use them. As for why Fang Yuan did not activate moving perspective cup goo at Langya Blessed Land, it was because he did not want to expose them. If it was exposed, the Langya land spirit would definitely demand for its recipe. Minutes ticked by, and with several times the speed at Hu Immortal Blessed Land. The chilly night wind made Fang Yuan slightly restless. He stood up and began to pace around. The sky was filled with many stars, providing sufficient starlight. The Stargate goo in Fang Yuan's hand, however, had no movement. Did it fail? Was that group of starlight firefly goo at Treasure Yellow Heaven bought by someone else? As time passed by, Fang Yuan's heart continued to sink. He stopped pacing about and stood on the spot for a long while with his hands behind his back. He gazed afar. Crescent Lake sparkled with light and tranquilness. The wolf group beside him. Some were standing and some were lying down, all with different postures. He could not help thinking back to that scene when he went to capture the liquor worm at Qingmao Mountain. He broke out in laughter, his worries gone, and his gaze once more became unclouded. All the worries, all the pressure, all the impatience since the start till now dispersed with the wind. He gazed at the night sky and breathed out all the turbid air in him, and suddenly felt that his current life was so beautiful, giving everything to pursue the greatest goal, having no regrets. He came to an understanding. His heart was clear like a mirror that could not be stained by dust, tranquil like this crescent lake. Since his rebirth at Qingmao Mountain, he had always been exhausting his mind, and now he suddenly understood something. This comprehension was unclear as it lingered around his heart before finally turning into a sentence. He mumbled, "The night sky is really beautiful." This was his heartfelt emotion. The moment he said these words, Fang Yuan's body lightened and felt he had unloaded 1,000 jin of weight, as if he was about to fly. His entire disposition also seemed to have changed. The cold aura disappeared without a trace, turning into a clear and carefree aura. The dark pupils with abysmal depths let out a clear light now, just like a newborn baby or like a star. The Stargate goo in his hands slightly shook at this moment, and the shaking intensified. Fang Yan opened his hand. The blue gemstone-like Stargate goo leisurely flew in the air. Large amounts of starlight gathered and condensed towards it. The scene was beautiful and dreamy. In an instant, the starlight formed into an enormous oval door. Well, Stargate goo had succeeded. Fang Yan calmly watched it, the corner of his lips slightly curled up into a smile, but his eyes were still calm as water. He unhurriedly stepped into the Stargate. The starlight in front of him turned into a whirlpool and flew away with his body. After a dozen or so breaths of time, he walked out of the Stargate and appeared in Hu Immortal Blessed Land. "Master, you are back." Little Hu Immortal was extremely happy as she leapt into Fang Yuan's chest. Fang Yuan chuckled and rubbed the land spirit's tiny head. "Yes, I am back," he gently said.